Okay, we're still doing some testing and input validation. We've tried putting in a non-numeric string, and in order to make it behave appropriately, we put in some try except code, exception handling. But now I'm looking and seeing a very subtle problem here based on entering numeric input. And again, it's this offset variable, which comes in here to the function Caesar cipher, which gets pulled from this offset keyword entry field. Okay, and this function is bound to the cipher message button. Why she puts a exclamation mark with a space, I don't know. Anyway, so she's binding this button, cipher button, to this function cipher options right here. But she's very nicely getting the option from one of these two fields, from one of these two fields, either Caesar or Vigenère, because this cipher option is a string var that's bound to the Caesar and Vigenère buttons. So that's radio button. So that's all good. Now, when she calls the option function here, she's getting more data from the offset keyword, which is here, the offset or keyword, because this is multi-purposed. So if we put in an input message of this is a test, and we put in an offset of 10, and we pick our encryption and encryption direction, and then we process the message, then it's fine. If we put in alphanumeric text, then on the command line, we're going to get an error. But there is no error indication here in this application that something went wrong, other than the fact that if there was text here, it disappears. So somehow she needs to propagate the error here she needs to get that back up into the options function, because we can't do any GUI stuff in this method or this function. She needs to somehow process that here. Or here, where she's updating the results. Okay. Okay, that's one issue. That's a TBD, to be done. I think this is going to have to get broken out, where she actually catches the message here and then sees what's going on with it and then makes a determination of how to handle that. Or she can catch the message here because it's going to be in the results field. Okay. So Python has this convention of it's better to ask forgiveness than permission. However, by doing this conversion and asking for forgiveness, it's really kind of hard to get the correct message back to the user when you return back up multi-levels of functions here, because actually here's where the button is clicked. Here's where that click is, well, the click is actually processed here initially, but all it's doing is deferring it to this function, which is calling this function, and then it comes back. So this check here would have been better done before this code started executing. In other words, it's kind of like this lowercasing of the string. We're only doing this to protect the code because it doesn't handle uppercase letters correctly yet. But here, we don't want to do GUI processing of errors inside of this function. So the next best place to do that is before this function gets called, which would be here. So instead of just grabbing these fields and blindly passing them on, it would be better to create variables and then check those variables before you pass them. So what I'm saying is this, and it actually would have been nice if the trace method saw these variables. So we're just going to do the Caesar side as a demonstration. So what we'll do is we need the input message, which we can get from the input box. And then we pop input message in here. We need this offset here. And then we need the direction of encoding. We have encoding, decoding, so we'll call this the coding direction. Okay, so now we've got all of our inputs from the GUI, and we can check them. So now we can, on the trace, we can say with an F string, we'll just say gathered. Okay, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to say message. Input message. Comma. Offset. Comma. I don't like output and input message because it's got an embedded new line in it, but such is life. And then the coding direction. Okay, so now, why are you upset? Oh, because we don't have input message in here. Now this is a string also. And actually the way she's doing all of these are all strings. Okay, so we'll put little ticks around it. So what we want to say is, So now this code here, okay, we'll just cut this out. And before we call the function, we will say, we will check if the offset is off, is all digits. Do the same thing there. Okay, now this function doesn't need to return anything. It's effectively a void function. But one of the things we can do, just for this, there actually should be some sort of status here or some sort of error message. But since we've got this output box, I'm just going to use that. So I'm going to delete the output box. Well, actually, I could just update results. Oh, but the results are going to be an error message. Okay, that's fine. So I'll just come here and I'll say, yeah, I'll just go update results. I'll make this a trace. Fine. Then self.update results, and I will say error. Actually, I guess I'll make this one error too. Okay, string offset has non-numeric characters. Okay, so we're just going to take this message right here and pop it in here. And then we're done processing, so we're going to return. All right, let's see how that works. Run it. This is a test. We'll put in an offset of 10. Set our options. That's correct. Put in a message of offset of ABC, which isn't so strange because if we were going to do a Vigenère cipher, this would be exactly what you would put in. You would put in a string. But for a Caesar cipher, the string is problematic. Likewise, if you're doing a Vigenère cipher and you put in a number, non-alphabetic text, you're also going to have a problem. So let's do Caesar with friends. And we get traces not defined because we used a capital T. Okay, this is a test with friends. A Caesar encode. And now you can see we've got the error message appearing in the GUI as opposed to the string text disappearing. However, this isn't the behavior that you want. You want this message to go into some label someplace. And I think that demonstrates that problem that needs correction. So let's move on.